What makes a man a monster? Is it the things he does, or the things he feels, or doesn't feel? Dexter Morgan is, without a doubt, one of the most intriguing anti-heroes ever created for television. His dual life, appearing to be an ordinary, well-adjusted individual by day and a methodical, calculated serial killer by night, has kept audiences captivated for years. At first glance, Dexter's character seems like a simple case of right versus wrong, with the right being his self-imposed moral code that drives him to kill only criminals who have escaped justice. But as we peel back the layers of Dexter's life and psychology, we uncover a darker, more complex story that challenges our understanding of morality, identity, and humanity. Dexter's appeal lies not in his killings, but in the complexity of his character. We are drawn to him because we can't quite label him as purely evil or completely righteous. He exists somewhere in between. His story prompts uncomfortable questions about justice, morality, and the human condition. Can a person who enacts such horrific acts still be considered a hero? And, in a world that's often morally ambiguous, what does it say about us that we find him so compelling? The birth of the dark passenger. Does trauma define us? Can a single moment shape the entire course of a life? Before he became the infamous Dexter Morgan, he was Dexter Moser, a young, innocent child who experienced an unimaginable trauma that would shape his destiny. At the tender age of 3, Dexter witnessed the brutal murder of his mother, Laura Moser, who was savagely killed with a chainsaw right before his eyes. The horror of that night left him scarred, both physically and emotionally. He sat in his mother's blood for 2 days, isolated in a shipping container, until he was found by police officer Harry Morgan, who would later become his adoptive father. This traumatic experience rewired Dexter's mind, creating an emotional void that would define him throughout his life. The early stages of trauma are crucial in understanding how Dexter became who he is. At such a young age, his brain was highly impressionable, and it responded to the horror by shutting down emotionally. This emotional detachment wasn't something Dexter was born with, but rather a coping mechanism to protect him from the overwhelming pain. But what does it mean when the brain's survival instinct is to numb the soul? Harry, seeing the void in Dexter, understood that something within him had to be managed, not suppressed. So rather than push Dexter to feel empathy, Harry nurtured a sense of justice by instilling the Code of Harry. This set of rules guided Dexter's actions and gave him a purpose: to kill only those who had evaded justice. But was this code a saving grace, or did it simply unleash a deeper monster inside him? Did Harry's well-intentioned actions create the very thing he hoped to control? The double life of Dexter Morgan. What happens when a man's greatest enemy is himself? Dexter's life is built on deception. He is a master at blending into society, using his job as a blood-spatter analyst for the Miami Metro Police Department as a perfect cover. To the outside world, Dexter is the ideal coworker, calm, efficient, and, at times, even charming. He's the guy you can count on when things get tough, and no one suspects that he's hiding a dark secret. But under the surface, Dexter is constantly analyzing people, always watching, and carefully plotting his next kill. The Code of Harry is Dexter's only guiding principle. It serves as a shield, protecting him from the guilt of taking human life, while simultaneously justifying his actions. He kills only criminals who have escaped justice, ensuring that each victim is guilty of heinous crimes. Dexter's precision and discipline in carrying out his killings make him more than just a murderer. He becomes a vigilante of sorts, one who enforces a twisted form of justice. But as the series progresses, Dexter starts to question whether his code is truly serving him, or if it's merely a prison of his own making. While the code helps him maintain control over his darker impulses, it also isolates him, forcing him into a constant battle with his inner demons. His relationship with the dark passenger, his term for the dark side of himself that craves violence, becomes the central conflict of his existence. Is the dark passenger an inseparable part of who he is? Or can it be tamed? Can a monster love? If you fake emotions long enough, do they eventually become real? Despite his emotional detachment, Dexter attempts to form relationships, though they are always built on lies. His relationships with others are riddled with deceit, manipulation, and ultimately, danger. Dexter's first wife, Rita, is an innocent, caring woman who believes Dexter to be a kind and loving father. She gives him a semblance of a normal life and even provides him with children, but she has no idea that she is living with a monster. Dexter's sister, Deborah, is another pivotal figure in his life. She is his moral compass, someone who loves him unconditionally despite the many flaws and secrets that Dexter harbors. Over the course of the show, Deborah struggles with her own internal conflicts as she discovers more about Dexter's true nature. When she finally learns the truth, that her brother is not the hero she thought he was, but rather a cold-blooded killer, her world crumbles. The emotional fallout of this revelation forces both siblings to confront the darker aspects of their relationship. Dexter's inability to truly connect emotionally with those he loves is a central theme of the show. He pretends to feel emotions, even going as far as mimicking the behaviors of those around him to appear normal. But the question remains, can someone who fakes emotions ever genuinely feel them? And if Dexter can never truly love or connect, does that make him a monster, or is he simply a man unable to escape his traumatic past? Can a monster change? If a killer stops killing, is he still a killer? Throughout the series, Dexter undergoes significant evolution. As he matures, he begins to question the very code he's lived by. He struggles with his identity. Can he ever truly escape the shadow of the dark passenger? There are moments when Dexter attempts to live a life that's free from violence, to move beyond his past and be the man Rita and Deborah believe him to be. However, the constant pull of his darker nature threatens to undo any progress he makes. He can never fully outrun his past, and the urge to kill always lingers beneath the surface. Dexter's evolution is marked by his growing sense of guilt and self-awareness. He starts to see himself not as a hero, but as a deeply flawed individual who is trapped in a never-ending cycle of violence. He seeks redemption, but it's unclear whether such a thing is even possible for someone like him. Dexter's inner conflict between his desire to change and his inability to escape his darker impulses serves as the tragic core of the series. The legacy of Dexter Morgan. Is justice ever truly black and white, or is it always painted in shades of red? Dexter Morgan's story is a study in moral ambiguity. He is both a killer and a man of principle, a character who is as much a product of his circumstances as he is a product of his own choices. His struggle with his identity, his moral code, and his relationships forces us to question what it means to be human. Is Dexter a hero or a villain? The answer is not as simple as it seems. Ultimately, Dexter Morgan's legacy is a reflection of our own fears and desires. We are drawn to him because, in some way, we all recognize a part of ourselves in him. The story of Dexter Morgan asks the most fundamental of questions. What does it mean to be truly good or truly evil? And in the end, can anyone truly escape their past?